I've spent the last 3.5 years making plans. And I've spent the last 3.5 years watching reality completely ignore them. Missed buses, wrong directions, tiempo latino, volunteer placements changing at the last minute, all kinds of different obstacles showing up out of nowhere. At this point, I should know better. But every time I think I've got everything together and all figured out, reality reminds me that I don't. The funny thing is, that's actually the reason street smart travel exists. Not to make life predictable, to make it survivable when it is unpredictable. Today I want to talk about why I always have plan B, C, D, and sometimes many more contingency plans, and why flexibility might be more important than planning in the first place. You don't have to be traveling like I am on the road full time to benefit by this. Contingency plans, optionality, and flexibility in your approach, regardless of what you're doing, are three huge lessons that keep being reinforced for me as I travel through South America. Steve here, Street Smart Travel. Welcome back. Today, a video about planning and why reality doesn't care about my plans or yours. I'm going to cover a few universal principles in this video about how to adapt to changing situations so that you can get to where you're planning on going, regardless of whether that's financial plans or relationship plans, or maybe it's around work or your health or whatever it is. These are universal lessons. Today, 3 examples of plans recently that totally went off the rails. I'll give you the short version of 3 situations that happened to me recently, just so you can see what I'm talking about in terms of having a plan and then reality getting in the way and still being able to navigate around the situation. Recently, I was headed to a volunteer placement. I was given directions on how to get there. They were good, but there was some nuance that was left out, and I ended up missing the stop that I was supposed to get off at. Luckily, I had told the lady on the bus, here's where I'm going, and she came up and said, oh, the stop you wanted was back there, so we can let you off here. Fair enough, it wasn't that far away. I took all my stuff off the bus, had to cross over a pedestrian bridge to get to the other side of the road so I could catch the bus to take me back to where I was supposed to get off in the first place. I had to take all my stuff again, cross over the pedestrian bridge to the other side of the road, took a cab to a bus. The plan was, take this bus to this other bus, and that bus will take you to my house. Didn't happen. I took a taxi up to where I was supposed to get the next bus. School had just let out. There was no way I was getting on that bus, let alone just me, but with all my stuff, impossible. So then I took another cab. So not just 2 buses, now it's 2 buses and 2 cabs. And of course, my internet signal went out while we were on our way. It's like, what else could possibly go wrong today? But I did know, even though I didn't have internet access, that this house was on the bus route. So I told the taxi driver, if you follow the route that that bus usually takes, I can identify the house. It all worked out. It took a much longer time to get there, and it was much more complicated, but I did get there, and everything worked out. Because I knew I've got contingencies. Worst case scenario, I get in a cab. There's no address, of course, because why would there be an address? That would make things easy. But I knew where the house was, and I knew it was on a bus route, and we managed to get there. So reality interfered with my simple 2-bus plan, turned it into 2 buses and 2 taxis. Finally got there. Number 2, volunteer placements. Plans change not infrequently. In this case, I had somebody confirm with me these dates, you can stay this amount of time, and later that same day, after we confirmed everything, they got in touch with me and said, oh, sorry, I messed up. I had disappearing messages set up on WhatsApp, and I forgot about the dates. These people are showing up. They just texted me and said they're going to be here in a couple days, and that made it impossible because our dates were overlapping. So they said, look, we don't have room to accommodate you now. Keep in touch. In the future, we will have space, and we'd love to have you here. So that didn't help me out in that situation, but I did have other contingencies. I got a bunch of contacts in my WhatsApp list from having traveled around Ecuador for the last 3.5 years. So I made a couple inquiries, reached out to a couple hosts, got everything sorted out, no problem. Again, Plans were made. I was giving notice to the people that were hosting me at that time, saying, okay, I'm going to be leaving tomorrow. Everything's done. And then at the last minute, nope, everything fell apart. Reality smacks me in the face, and I still got to figure it out. And I always do. And I know after this amount of time traveling down here and the way that things keep going sideways, I know I'm going to figure it out. So I treat it as an adventure as opposed to a setback. Third story. I recently went on a hike. We were supposed to be there at 8 a.m. We got there a little after 8 a.m. because they gave us the wrong directions. And it was a clown show, calling them, trying to get signal. They were way out in the sticks. Finally, the cab driver figured out where they were, and we ended up getting to the place a little after 8. Tour didn't start until 9. We ended up getting lost a couple times. It took the entire day. So apply those lessons to situations where you've got plans and you have everything mapped out. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's the way I can see it moving forward. I can visualize everything. It's going to work out perfectly. And then when it doesn't, don't freak out. Don't panic. Just look at your contingency plans, your margin of error, and any optionality or flexibility that you've built into those plans. Adapt and redeploy those plans. Because if you're committed, you will get to where you want to go. 3.5 years on the road of planning, 3.5 years of reality, laughing in my face and changing my plans on a very frequent basis. But again, a lot of the time, the end result ends up being better, and the story certainly is a lot more interesting for having gone through all those changes. So the lesson here, plans are useful. Reality doesn't care about them, but it's still good to have a plan. A few simple observations. Information down here certainly tends to be incomplete. And again, you don't need to be on the road to be experiencing these kinds of obstacles. I always try to get the best information I can, the most up-to-date, accurate information that's available. Doesn't always happen. I still end up getting wrong directions a lot. Something that happens here in South America, if people don't know, if I ask them, hey, how do I get from where I am to where I want to go, this location, nobody, in 3.5 years, nobody has said, I don't know. They will make up directions and try to be helpful instead of saying, sorry, ask somebody else. So incomplete information is a huge issue. And reality smacks me in the face every single time I don't double check and make sure I've got complete information. 2, people are unpredictable. And I always have the contingency plans in place because I know something is very likely going to go sideways. So whatever your plans are, and they might be around finances, they could be around your work, they could be around relationships or family or whatever it is, just keep in mind that because you agree to something today doesn't mean it's going to stay that way in the future. So always have optionality built in, margins of safety, contingency plans. Just because chances are things are going to change at some point. They might be small changes that are easy to roll with. They might be bigger changes that really destroy your plans. It means you got to start from scratch. Circumstances also change. This is number 3. This is a daily occurrence here. I'll do all the planning I can, get all the up-to-date information I can, deal with people and get, again, the best information, and still things will go sideways. Circumstances will change. It could be the weather, it could be the economy, it could be a paro, like a big strike, or a demonstration, or a government shutdown, or whatever it is. These things happen, not infrequently in the developing world. And again, you don't need to be on the road in South America. This can affect you no matter what your plans are, no matter what you're trying to do. So it's always good to keep in mind, just because the circumstances are a certain way today, doesn't mean they're going to be that way later today, or tomorrow, or next week, or at any time in the future. So I'm always looking at what could possibly go wrong in this scenario, whether that's about incomplete information, unpredictable people, or changing circumstances. And I will have multiple contingencies built in so that when one or all of those things change, what do I do? I have other plans in place. Which one is the best fit for the scenario? Maybe I have to come up with a new one on the fly. What's going to get me through this situation so that I can go from where I am and get to where I need to be? The lesson here is the goal isn't perfect planning. The goal is surviving contact with reality. 3 very important principles. Let's call these street smart travel principles. 1. Always have contingency plans. Not a contingency plan, multiple contingency plans. Plan B is good, but I also have plan C and D at a minimum, because I know chances are one of those are going to be a pretty close fit regardless of how badly things go sideways. I've been through this before. This isn't the last time this is going to happen. I am going to figure this out. Always have multiple contingency plans. 2. Second, street smart travel principle. Build in margins of safety. When I'm on the road, these are things like knowing the bus schedule and having an idea of what's available in the town in case something happens. I was traveling through Colombia. There was a car bomb. I couldn't continue travel. I had to go back to a town that was nearby and find a hotel and spend the night. That was not part of my plan that morning, but it worked. And one of the margins of safety I had in that scenario was I had some extra cash on me because I couldn't change US dollars in this tiny town. I had enough currency to get a hotel, to get food, and to get on a different bus the next day. So sometimes financially, you really need to have a margin of safety in there. Having a margin of safety with time is also hugely important. Those are two of the bigger ones. Not the only ones, but two of the bigger ones that for me have saved me time and again, regardless of how reality decides it wants to change my plans. Principle number 3, stay flexible enough to adapt. When things don't work out, when you got your plans, everything looks like it's going to go great, and then something goes sideways or multiple somethings go sideways, it's really important to have the flexibility and be able to adapt on the fly. I fixate on where is it I'm going, what's my goal in this scenario. It might be a destination, like geographically I want to get to a place. It could be a number I want to hit if it's a financial consideration. It could be a level of health I'm aiming at, whatever it happens to be. I always know this is the goal, and the means for me to get to the goal is probably what's going to change, if anything. I'll still get to that goal, and keep that in mind when you have goals as well. You'll still get there, but you might have to be very flexible and adapt your approach so that you do end up getting there. 3 very important street smart travel principles. 1, have multiple contingency plans. 2, build in margins of safety. And 3, stay flexible enough to adapt. Now, the big takeaway isn't that planning is useless. I still make plans. I still set goals. I still plan ahead multiple moves, like I'm playing a chess game. The goal is not to create the perfect plan. That's never going to happen. The goal is to create enough margin, flexibility, and optionality so that no matter what happens, you're prepared to move forward with your plan, whatever it is, and change to this contingency, that contingency, whatever it is. Eventually, one of these contingencies is going to work out. I never know which one, but I have multiple in place, just in case. But life doesn't happen on paper. It happens in real time. And honestly, a lot of the best experiences I've had traveling over the last 3.5 years full-time through South America have come from changes of plans, changes of circumstances, incomplete information, people changing their minds, whatever it is. The situation or the plan that I had when I first started out ended up changing, and it led me to a much more interesting and fulfilling and fun adventure than I had planned in the first place. Again, you don't need to be on the road to be experiencing these things. Reality is going to mess up your plans. I guarantee it. No matter how carefully laid they are, reality is going to come in and assert itself and say, oh, you think you got it figured out? Watch this. Hold my beer. So these days I still make plans. I just hold them more loosely. I'm not attached to them. I would like to think everything will work out exactly the way I've planned it. I know that's not going to happen. And I know that I've got other plans in place. And based on my experiences to date, I'm getting much better at contingency planning, having options, having flexibility built into my approach. And it makes for a much more relaxed, interesting, and fun way of life down here on the road. The big takeaway from this video: build systems that are strong enough to survive uncertainty and stay flexible enough to benefit from it. It's great to have systems and plans. I swear by them. I know reality is going to mess with them, and I also know that I'm going to be able to adapt and survive and move forward and get to where I need to go, regardless of what happens from my starting point to my ending point. And that is street smart. This is the reason street smart travel exists. To be flexible, to have optionality, and to have contingency plans for when life inevitably gets in the way of my best laid plans. Any comments or questions, please drop them below. Recently passed 500 subs. Thanks to everybody who has signed up to the channel. Looking forward to the next 500 so I can get to being monetized. Took a year and a half to get here. We'll see how long it takes to get to monetization. Thank you for watching. Happy trails. See you out on the road next Saturday.